All right, hello and welcome to MMT TV. And today I'm here with Stu McLaren, founder of Wishlist member and Rhino Support. And well, I want to open with what was before Wishlist?
Well, before Wishlist, I had a consulting company, and we were doing really well. We had about 5 figures a month coming in from that. But the problem with the consulting business is that it requires personal time. So, it didn't take me long to figure out that if I wanted to really grow that business, it was going to require more of my time, and that was not the direction that I wanted to go. It was not scalable. So ultimately, what I ended up doing was looking for a way to share the same knowledge that I was sharing with my consulting clients, but share it with more people. And that's what led me to Wishlist Member, because I was moaning and groaning about wanting to create a membership site with a good friend of mine, Tracy Childers. And I was complaining about the technology at the time. I'm not super tech savvy. I'm not a coder or developer. And he said, well, why don't you create something? And that's what I said to him. I'm like, dude, I can't create it. I don't even know how to write a lick of code. And he said, well, why don't we team up? And he had somebody that was working with him, Mike, who's now one of our business partners. And collectively, the three of us got together, and next thing we know, Wishlist Member was born. So before Wishlist Member, I had a consulting business, and before that, I was speaking to high school and college students about creativity. So it was that was essentially the progression.
Okay, and what was the landscape of members' websites or the tools for continuity income before you launched Wishlist, before you got started with the beta?
There was definitely membership sites out there. I think the challenge was that it was very technical to set up. The options that were available were very technical. They required you to, hack your server settings and your HTTP access and set up databases and all this kind of crazy stuff.
I don't even know what that means.
Exactly, and that was the frustrating part. You had to depend and rely on a webmaster. And it was just a nightmare. So my, perfect world meant that I could set up a membership site without anybody else's help. And I wanted to use WordPress because that was a platform that I was using to publish content. And so ultimately, that's what led to Wishlist Member. But that's what the landscape was like. People were doing it, but it was a lot more difficult, and it was a lot more manual and a lot more technical at the time.
So to develop Wishlist Member, you started to drop or move away from your consulting business. So how was that for you?
Scary as all heck. So, thank goodness my wife, she was a full-time teacher. She still teaches. And so what happened was we basically burned the boats, and basically said we're going all in on Wishlist, because I had a gut feel that there was a lot of potential there. And this was the type of business that I wanted to design. I didn't want to design a business that required more of me. I wanted to design a business that could scale and grow without, having more input from me, if you will. And so this was it. And so we basically, over the course of 4 months, let go of all of our consulting clients, except for one. We held on to one client for almost 2 years after that. But essentially, all of our clients were let go. We went from 5 figures a month down to next to nothing in order to get Wishlist off the ground. And so it was really scary. And we were living off of my wife's income as a teacher, and for several months. And then it didn't take long. Wishlist started to really pick up. And within about a year and a bit, we had replaced and then some all of the income that we were earning before.
So I was just listening right before this to a little audio about your first sale online and how it's a good story. So if you could share it here, I'd love to hear it. But was that for Wishlist Member, or was that for some other product?
That was for a totally different product. It was for a little info product that I created when I was just kind of experimenting online to see if it was possible to generate online revenue. And I had this idea for an ebook, and it was called Ideas for Halloween. I love coming up with new ideas for stuff. And so, Halloween's a fun time of year, and we compiled all these different ideas. And at the time, we got to remember, this was like around 2004. So I was, fresh out of college. I was shoulder deep in student debt, but I was determined to make this work. And my brother-in-law and I were working at this place, and every day he would come in, and he was kind of like vicariously living through my experience to see if making money online was even a reality. And so I worked hard. I mean, I put together this ebook. I hired a graphic designer. I hired a ghostwriter to help me flush out some of the ideas. Before I'd even put it online, I had invested well over $1,200, because I remember it was $600 for the graphic designer, and it was $750 for the ghostwriter. And so yeah, I'm over $1,300 before I even get started. Then I had to figure out the website side of it. I had to figure out the autoresponder, the shopping cart side. I mean, it was a nightmare. But I struggled through it. This was part of the exercise. I wanted to, do it myself and learn, see if it was possible. Well, the good news was I finally got it all done, and I finally got it ready to go. The bad news was I only had 2 weeks before Halloween hit, so I had to hustle. So I get it online. I start buying ads. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm buying all these Google ads because apparently that was how you drive traffic. And every day my brother-in-law would come in, and he would say, "Have we made a sale yet?" And I'd be like, "No, I haven't made a sale yet. It takes a little bit of time." And he'd come in and he'd be like, "Have you made a sale yet?" I'm like, No. It's like it's a numbers game. I just need more people." And every day, "Have you made a sale? No. Have you made a sale? No. Have you made a sale? No." It was starting to get pretty discouraged. Well, then I left to go to a seminar. My girlfriend, my now wife, and I flew to go to the seminar. And when we landed, we quickly went up to the hotel room, and I said to her, I'm like, I got to check my stats to see if I made a sale. Like some magic, was going to happen.
There's always magic at a seminar.
That's right. That's right. So I get up to the hotel room, and I log online, and there it was. My first sale, $7.95. I mean, it was like epic. I was high-fiving my wife. We were doing a little dance. It was just like the best of experience that you could ever have. Well, fast forward a few years, and that one sale led to what has now been millions and millions of dollars of online sales with all of the different products and services that we've created over the years. And I'll never forget, that was in 2004, and my wife and I got married in 2007. And my brother-in-law, he's retelling this story of my first sale. And he was talking about how hard I worked and how much time I had invested and poured into creating this little $7.95 ebook, and how I was buying all these ads, and I was racking up all these bills, for this ebook, and I hadn't even made a sale yet. And every day he was coming in and asking, "Have you made a sale? No. Have you made a sale? No. Have you made a sale? No." And finally he tells the audience, when they left to go on that trip, I was so discouraged for him that I just asked my girlfriend if she could buy the darn ebook so that he could make a sale. And I remember hearing him say that, and I looked over at him, and I was just shocked, and tears literally just started streaming down my face, because at the time, I mean, that gave me a sense of belief that it was possible. That made me feel like, what, even though it's only $7.95 that I've made, and even though I've invested, well over $1,300 to make that $7.95 sale, at the time I just thought, what, it's just a tweaking process. I can make this work. And I did. Eventually that led to, as I said, millions and millions of dollars of sales of products and services over the years. But it all started with that one sale, and I never forget that, because I remember just tears were just rolling down my face, because I thought, man, he has no idea the impact that one little gesture had on the entire trajectory of my life. And it was a big, significant moment, but it all started with that $7.95. So, when I share that story with people, I want people to realize that before you make $1,000, you got to make $10. And before you make $10,000, you got to make $1,000. And before you make 100,000, you got to make 10,000. And before you make $1 million, you got to make 100,000. But it all starts with that first sale. You've got to focus on that first sale. If you can get that first sale, that's your starting point.
Yeah, I wish I had that attitude. Like I was saying, when I pressed the button, my first members website, which was your platform, I made $800. I had a $40 a month membership. These interviews were actually the product. And and I had 20 people on my email list of I think like 1,000 or 1,200 or something buy on day one. And
Wow.
you know, now looking back, I'm like over the moon about it. But at the time, I was thinking, oh, it wasn't 10,000, and I think that's the wrong idea. When you go in and I want to make $10,000. I like what you just said. You start with $1, you start with 100, you go to 1,000, you go to 10,000, and it all scales up.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it all starts with that first sale. And, it's about learning the process more than anything. And you can't learn the process if you don't even get to a sale. And once you get to that first sale, I mean, you're going to have learned a lot, which is the case when I made my first sale. And then, yeah, you got to go back and tweak it. I mean, like, let's look at the reality. I spent well over, well, when you put in the ads, it was close to $2,000 that I spent to make a $7.95 sale. The math just doesn't work,
Not
right?
even.
Like, people would just look at that on paper and say that's a total and utter failure. And it was from a financial standpoint. But from an experience standpoint, it was the most valuable thing that I could have ever paid for. And that led to me learning the process of being able to create a product from scratch, how to prepare the marketing materials, how to present the sales message, how to, deliver on that product. There was so many things that you had to learn in order to execute on that. And that has paid dividends many times over in the years that followed.
Yeah, I can still see the excitement that you get about this first sale because it really made your career as an internet marketer. But what has the internet allowed your life to look like?
Well, I am a firm believer in the internet. I mean, there is nothing, in my opinion, that is more valuable than a internet connection. Because when I look at my life now, I mean, I live in a tiny little town about an hour and a half south of Toronto. So I live out in the middle of nowhere, and I love it. This is the area that I grew up, but surrounding me are farmers, people who work in agriculture. This is not a tech hub by any means, but it's a lot of manual labor that people around me are, working day in and day out. And when I look at the lifestyle that my wife and family and I have as a result of a single internet connection, I mean, golly, it makes me so grateful. So I live in a tiny, small town, about an hour and a half south of Toronto. It's a very easygoing little beach town, if you will. And this business has allowed me to be able to travel a lot with my wife. So, a couple of years ago, we spent 2 months in Hawaii. We took the family there, and we worked there for 2 months. Next year, for example, we're doing the same thing in Thailand. And my wife and I travel a lot. So in the last 6 months, we just got back from Jamaica. My wife was in India. So we travel a lot, and we take our family with us. And then the other thing that I would say is that I love being able to either work from home or an office really nearby. So my commute is next to nothing. And that just frees up so much more time to be with your family, to pursue the other activities in life that you enjoy. Like, I'm a big swimmer and play soccer and run. I love spending time with my daughter. Like, that's priority number one. So the internet has given me that ability. And it's just about using the time that we've got to be able to design a business that creates and serves the lifestyle that you want to lead. So my lifestyle is probably totally different from the one that you may want to have, Shaun, and the one that your viewers and audience may want to have. But it's about crafting a business that serves the life that you want to create.
Yeah, what's funny is I was actually speaking with someone a couple days ago, Don Campbell. He's a real estate investor, and he has created his entire lifestyle out of real estate. Millions and millions of dollars of real estate has paid for his lifestyle. But he lives on a farm, which is totally different from the way that I want to live, which
Right.
is on the road, which is different from the way that you want to live. So
Yep.
everyone has a different idea of what a laptop lifestyle looks like.
Yeah, but the great news is you can have it. As long as you have an internet connection, you can design whatever lifestyle and business that you want. And there are so many options now. I mean, so our company, we have 18 full-time people. Well, none of us work from the same location. So the three co-founders, myself, my business partner Tracy, he lives in just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and my other business partner Mike, he lives in the Philippines. Half of our team live in the Philippines. The other half of our team are spread all throughout North America, so in the US and Canada. And so, but none of us are in the same location. And yet, we're able to run a multi-million-dollar company because of the internet. I mean, I'm just a firm believer in it. I am so grateful for the time that we live in, and it's just an awesome opportunity and a great time to be in business.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your newest company because Wishlist, you've been running that for quite a while. It's doing very well. But Rhino Support, what's that all about? It's a support company, obviously.
Yeah, so we created an online support solution, and much like my frustration when we started Wishlist was built out of a frustration because there was nothing that was user friendly for creating a membership site. The same sort of thing happened with Rhino Support. So my wife and I have a charity, and every year we do a donor trip to Kenya, and where we bring all of our top donors. We go to Kenya, and we experience the community that they have helped by building a school. And it's an awesome time, but on one of the trips, one of the guys that was on there, his name is Scott Branley, and he has a tech company as well, and we were bantering back and forth the whole time we were there and brainstorming. And one of the things that I started to express to him was a frustration because we were using a support solution called Zendesk. And the problem with Zendesk was that they charge on a per user per month basis. So as our company grew, we kept adding more and more users to the help desk because we needed more and more of our staff to be able to respond to customer support tickets. Well, that meant another $50 per month. So for every new support staff that we added, it was another $50 a month for Zendesk. And as a small business owner, that started to frustrate me because I'm now second guessing whether I should add somebody to the help desk, which is the total wrong mentality in my opinion. And so I'm moaning and groaning to this about with Scott, and he said, dude, we had the exact same frustration. And he said, in fact, we created our own support desk, and then he started telling me about it. And as he went on and told me about it, I'm like, man, that sounds incredible. I'm like, I would love to check that out. We get home from Kenya, he sends me a login, and it does everything that he says it would do. The only problem was that it looked like crap. So it was not designed, with customer experience in mind. It was definitely designed from a programmer's perspective. And so I just started sharing with Scott. I'm like, dude, you got a winning product here, but it needs like an overhaul in terms of the customer experience and so forth. Because we had learned a lot about customer experience with Wishlist over the years. And so he said, well, what would you do? And so I, again, started sharing with him what I would do and how I'd rebrand it and redesign it and change the interface and all that kind of stuff. Long story short, he said, well, why don't we team up together and do it together? And so we did. And so we spent months and months and months overhauling the entire product and finally produced the service, which is Rhino Support. And the key thing here is that we priced it the way that we would want a service like this to be priced. So it's one low fee for unlimited support agents. So now as your company grows, your support costs won't. And that was the big thing that was frustrating me with Zendesk and all the other solutions that are out there. With Rhino Support, one low fee, unlimited people on your staff can use it.
Yeah, I heard you having a similar rant about, what was it? Merchant accounts, where you would use Stripe or something. You recommended that to somebody as an app where their fees don't skyrocket. And there's all kinds of these little tools that you can use.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, for a small business owner is going to be much more mindful to the bottom line than a big corporation. So for me, an extra $600 a year for every staff member that we add to the help desk, that starts to add up after a while. And it's not going to, break the bank, but it's just irritating more than anything. And so I think that the services that win in the long haul are the services that are designed and priced to where the customer feel great about using the service. They feel like they're getting the better end of the deal. One of my mentors very early on said, in any partnership, you always want the other side feeling like they got the better end of the deal. And I think the same thing applies for business with your customers. You always want them feeling like after they use your product or service, like they are getting the better end of the deal. And if your pricing irritates your customers, it's not going to be long before another solution pops up and everybody's going to jump ship because you just haven't paid attention to making sure the other side gets the best end of the deal.
I like that. I wanted to transition a bit into yourself personally, your own personal development and the people that have influenced you. So,
sure, what would you like to know?
well, let's start with people who have influenced you. Who's really influenced you the most when it comes to designing your lifestyle or internet marketing?
Well, I think, when it comes to designing my lifestyle, would actually be my father. My father is a blue-collar worker and has been the hardest working person I know for years and years and years. When I was a kid, and he still does to this day, he works 2 full-time jobs. And so he would work from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon working with people with special needs in a high school. And then he would work 4 nights a week, 8 at night till 8 in the morning in a group home with people with special needs. So the guy worked insane hours, and yet he was still at every single one of my soccer games, basketball games, track tournaments, all that kind of stuff. Like, he was always just there, being, an amazing supportive father. But yet he worked himself to the bone and never had time for the stuff that mattered to him, the stuff that he enjoyed doing. And so I'll never forget when I was like around 12 years old, my dad on his day off was like working hard in the backyard. He was building a deck and was helping him and so forth. And I just thought to myself, you know what, like, I love my dad so much, but I never want to be in a spot where I have to work this hard in order to provide for my family. And so he really influenced me in the sense that he's given me an opportunity to be in a position now where I have been educated. I've had a great childhood and so forth. My parents did an amazing job in providing us that. Let me use that as a starting point to now design a life that I would absolutely love to live. So my parents were definitely a huge influence in that way. And then I would say, from a business perspective, one of the big mentors for me over the last few years is a guy named Chuck Feeney. Now, a lot of people probably don't know who Chuck is, but he is a multi-billionaire. And if you go on YouTube and search the video The Secret Billionaire, you'll be able to see Chuck's story. But here it is in summary. Chuck was a guy who was in the Navy and noticed an opportunity where he could create essentially duty-free shops. And so Chuck is the creator of the duty-free shops that we see all over the world. And that little idea blossomed and just completely took off. And next thing you know, the guy is, billionaire. Well, he struggled really hard with the fact that he was making so much money. Now, a lot of people may laugh about that, but I could totally relate to that because when I started to make really good money, I felt guilty about it. I really did. I really felt guilty about it, and I could feel that guilt limiting my ability to get to the next level from an income perspective. And so I really resonated with Chuck. And even though this guy's making billions of dollars, what he started to do was he started to channel that money, unbeknownst to the general public, to big charitable causes. So he's built like huge universities over in Ireland and throughout the US, and that people will never know about because he never wanted his name associated with all the money that he was giving. So he was giving it all anonymously. And then a few years ago, he finally kind of opened up about it and started sharing what he had been doing because he wants to inspire other entrepreneurs to do the same. And I so related to that message because when my wife and I started our charity, one of the things that really shook my world was realizing how far a dollar can go. So for example, in the areas that we help in Kenya, $2 will feed a child every single day for an entire month. Or $100 will pay for the full-time salary of a teacher who's then educating hundreds of kids every single day of every single month. So for me, I started to associate, well, hang on a minute, the more money I make, the more impact I can have. Because we can volunteer, but the reality is we only have so many hours in a day. But there's no limits as far as how much money you can make and or give. And so Chuck Feeney was a huge influence on me and really made me realize that, you know what? Making money is a great thing because the more money you make, the more impact you can have. And that has dramatically changed and shifted my whole mindset on business. Now, I have no problem with making money. I love making money, and I want to make as much money as humanly possible because the more money I make, the more impact I can have. And so he was definitely a huge influence on me. Similar, Paul Newman, from Newman's Own, same sort of concept. He built this company that's done hundreds of millions of dollars, and all of it has gone to charitable causes. So, guys like Chuck Feeney, guys like Paul Newman, huge influence on me, and I love what they stand for and try as much as possible to model the way I conduct business accordingly.
Yeah, I like that. I want to hear more about your charitable organization. How many people are you helping in Kenya right now?
So we have built a total now of 4 schools. We're on our 4th school that we're building. And those schools, each school will provide education for anywhere between 600 to 700 kids every single day of every single month of every single year. And all of that has come as a result of my wife's vision. She had the idea and the concept for it, and I was kind of along for the ride. But then, it totally grew on me, and I totally, got swept up in her excitement for it because I now see what an impact we can have as entrepreneurs on any area that we really want to have an impact on. So, we have a soft spot for that side of the world. We're in the midst of adopting from Africa. So, we have a real soft spot for that area, which is where we focus all of our concentration, building schools in rural communities where kids would never otherwise have a chance to go. And it's just been a huge blessing in so many ways, and has kind of really lit me up as an entrepreneur, given me a whole new meaning for everything that we do. But all the credit goes to my wife. I mean, she had the vision, she had the insight that there was a need in these areas, and it came from her passion for traveling. She would always travel on the off-beaten path, and she just saw in these rural communities there were hundreds and hundreds of kids that wanted to go to school but couldn't because the school wasn't there. So the way that our charity is set up is we basically find the funding from so many great donors that we have, and we build the infrastructure. So we build the school, and then we partner with the government, and the government provides the teachers, and together we can now then fund schools for these rural communities.
And you've been to Africa, you've been on the ground building these schools with the people.
Yeah, we go every year. So obviously the schools are being built right now, like one of them is being built right now, and we're not there because we have a team of people that are over there building it. But to keep things in perspective, our charity is made up of 4 people. Myself and my wife, who both volunteer, and then we have 2 full-time people. One of them is in Kenya, and one of them is actually in Sierra Leone. But the one in Kenya, he basically goes and checks on our projects every 2 weeks, and so he circles through all of our different schools that we've built, grabs pictures, talks to the principals, the teachers, and keeps donors updated on the progress of the schools and so forth. And then we have a lady in Kenya who helps with all of our construction of all of our schools, and she's incredible. She's like the Mother Teresa of Africa. Her name is Irene, and she is the most responsible person I've ever met in Africa, and we're just so grateful to have her help us on the construction side, spearheading all those big projects.
And what is going to Africa and building these schools and working with these people, what has that done to your perspective about the place that we live in, the world that we live in?
I think it's just given me, it's just helped me realize how much we have here, but it also, when you go to Africa, it's not necessarily what is always portrayed in the media. Africa is actually a very happy place, and the people are incredibly happy, even though they have next to nothing. And what it did was it made me question, what is happiness? Like, what makes us happy? And, in North America, we think it's stuff. Stuff makes us happy. Bigger house, better car, more stuff. The more stuff, the more happy I'm going to be. But in Africa, they don't have anything. So what makes them happy? And it's totally different. It's like relationships and community and, words, using words to make each other happy, whether it be through song or through, story or through dance. Like it's just totally different. And it just makes you appreciate like the simple things in life that really bring joy to what we experience versus the stuff that we associate over here in North America and in the developed world in general. So it made me really think about happiness and what makes me happy, and it put in perspective all of the things. It just put life in perspective. So from a materialistic standpoint, a lot of things just don't matter to me anymore. I would say that I live a very simple life. Our family lives very simple, and I just don't need more stuff to make me happy. I think that's the biggest shift.
Yeah, it's about the moment to moment, the day to day. We can actually hear your kid in the background.
Yeah, it's my little daughter. Yeah, she's almost 3, so she's talking a mile a minute nowadays.
That's great. All right, Stu, where do you want to send people today? We got Rhino Support, we got Wishlist member.
Yeah, easiest place to go is just stu.me, stu.me, and there's links from there to everything else that we've talked about.
Perfect. Then we'll send them there. We're going to link them up. Thanks for being on the show. This was great.
Awesome. Thanks, Shaun. Take care.